Life was never easy for the small Presley family, long before the name Elvis became a thunderous echo across stages around the world. Long before the bright lights, the screaming fans, or the endless applause, there was a period of darkness that almost swallowed them whole. A time when poverty wasn't just a struggle, it was an enemy they faced every single day. And standing at the center of that storm was a humble woman named Gladys Love Presley, a mother who refused to give up, even when the world seemed determined to shut every door in front of her. Gladys and Vernon Presley lived in a working-class neighborhood in Tupelo, Mississippi. They were not a fortunate family. Jobs came and went, wages were unstable, and any dollar they managed to earn seemed to disappear before they could even use it. Yet, in the middle of all that pressure, Gladys held on to one thing above all: her son's future. For her, Elvis was not just a child. He was hope. He was comfort. He was the reason she found the strength to keep going even when her legs felt too weak to stand. The early years of the Presley family were filled with uncertainty. Vernon worked odd jobs, sometimes as a laborer, sometimes tending livestock, sometimes doing delivery work, anything that could bring in money. But the economic crisis that hit Mississippi at the time made steady work almost impossible to find. Even when Vernon managed to get a job, the pay was often not enough to cover basic necessities. Things only worsened when a legal problem from Vernon's youth led to him being jailed for a period of time, leaving Gladys alone to care for young Elvis. It was then that the true weight of life fell on Gladys's shoulders. Not only did she have to raise Elvis by herself, but she also had to find a way to provide for them. She took any job she could find: cleaning houses, washing laundry for neighbors, babysitting. Anything that could bring food to the table. Every night, after Elvis fell asleep, Gladys would sit in a fragile wooden chair in their small living room, counting the coins she earned that day, praying it would be enough to pay for electricity or buy groceries the next morning. Their house was small, cramped, and often felt like it might collapse. But to Gladys, that little house was their final fortress, a place where she stored all her hopes and dreams for Elvis's future. Though it had nothing luxurious inside, it was filled with warmth, determination, and a love no amount of money could buy. Sometimes Elvis would catch his mother staring off into the distance, her face tired and her eyes heavy with worry. But the moment she realized he was watching, she forced a smile. "Mama's fine," she would say, even when the truth was far from it. Gladys didn't want Elvis to grow up afraid of life or weighed down by their struggles. She wanted him to grow up feeling safe, hopeful, and confident, qualities she herself almost lost. But the world does not care about hard work or a sincere heart. Sometimes, no matter how much someone tries, life keeps pressing down. Prices rose, bills accumulated. There were many nights when the Presleys ate far less than they should have. Yet, as life grew heavier, Gladys's determination only grew stronger. She refused to surrender. She refused to let Elvis inherit a life of endless hardship. In the middle of all this hardship, Gladys found one thing that shined a small light for Elvis: music. Whenever Elvis looked troubled or felt overwhelmed by the poverty surrounding them, Gladys encouraged him to sing. She knew there was something different about her son's voice, something that came from deep within his soul. "Sing, baby. Sing whatever makes you feel calm," she'd say. And Elvis sang. In their nearly empty little house, his voice echoed softly through the thin walls. Sometimes he sang church hymns, sometimes folk melodies, sometimes he made up his own tunes. Gladys often cried quietly while listening, not out of sadness, but because she could hear hope in his voice. She sensed that this gift might one day lift him out of the life they were stuck in. Still, Gladys's strength did not come only from her love for Elvis. It came from her belief that life must be fought for, even when it feels impossible. Many people in their neighborhood gave up over time. Some fell into despair. Some remained trapped in poverty for life. Some lost their way entirely. But Gladys refused to be one of them. She had no wealth, no higher education, no stable job, but she had faith, resilience, and an unbreakable heart. As Elvis grew older, he began to understand that his family was different. He noticed why his mother often ate less so he could eat more. He noticed why he only had 1 or 2 decent outfits. He noticed why their home was never comfortable or secure, and each time he felt sad or guilty, Gladys comforted him. "We may not have much, but we have each other, and that is more than enough." Those words stayed with Elvis forever. Even when he grew up, became famous, and traveled the world, Gladys shaped the core of who he became: a loving son, humble, grateful, and deeply attached to his mother. Even at the height of fame, Elvis would often say, "Everything I have came from Mama." But back in his childhood, Gladys's struggle was far from over. As the economy worsened, they were forced to move again and again, bouncing between rental homes they could barely afford. There were times when they didn't even know where they would live next. Yet Gladys's resolve never cracked. She always found a way. She always found strength. And most importantly, she always made Elvis feel loved and protected. One night, during a storm that rattled their old house and blew cold wind through the cracks in the windows, young Elvis asked, "Why do we always have to move? Why aren't we like other families?" Gladys looked at her son, stroked his hair, and said, "Because God gave us a different journey, but I promise you, this journey will lead you to something incredible one day." She had no idea then that the little boy she held in her arms would grow up to be a global icon. She only knew she had to keep fighting, keep believing, so her son would never lose faith in himself. Day by day, year by year, things slowly began to change. Elvis's voice began attracting attention. He sang at church, at school, anywhere he was given a chance. Every time Elvis performed, Gladys stood in the front row, not as an ordinary audience member, but as a woman witnessing the first fruits of her lifelong sacrifices. Her determination in the face of hardship was never wasted. Her strength gave Elvis the foundation he needed. Without Gladys, Elvis might never have had the courage to pursue music. Without Gladys, he might never have believed he could rise above poverty. When life grew harder, Gladys's determination only grew stronger. She taught Elvis that dreams can be born in poverty, that love can defeat circumstances, that a mother's strength can build the foundation for a child to soar far beyond what anyone could imagine. And in the end, history proved her right. Elvis didn't just become a singer. He became an icon, a cultural phenomenon, a legend whose impact stretches far beyond music. But behind all of that was a simple woman who once sat in a shaky wooden chair, counting her coins by dim light, refusing to let hardship define her son's destiny. This is the story of Gladys Presley, the mother whose courage made a legend possible, not with money or influence, but with love, resilience, and an unbreakable heart.